Let's just take a few more minutes now and just settle in and arrive here and relax. And this song is called "The Light Has Come," and it's from one of the lessons in A Course in Miracles, and it's made by a dear friend of ours, a singer. She's Dutch. So we can just listen to it a little bit more and let the last people come in. Welcome. Thank you for having us here this weekend. Thank you. We had a beautiful meeting here last night, where we introduced ourselves a bit and talked about our journey a lot. Today we will dedicate more to how to live the teachings of A Course in Miracles, which means how to live in a way that we can deal with every moment and bring in forgiveness to every moment, so that we can have a miracle each and every instant. This moment can be our miracle if we're able to transcend the perceptual experience we have. So that's what we have dedicated our lives to, and we shared quite a bit about that yesterday. And today we'll talk a lot about the same stuff around projection and perception, and how we can open up our minds to spirit to transcend our perceptions, all our perceptions, not just some, and also to make it consistent across all our experiences, not just at certain times when we meditate or when we go to church or when we do certain practice, but all of them, all of our impressions and all of our experiences. And that's very inspiring, and it can feel very challenging too. But that's very inspiring, and in that we can talk a bit about purpose, what purpose is, and or how to use the purpose of forgiveness, the Holy Spirit's purpose, consistently, and not become like a victim of any kind of circumstance, but that we actually feel that we are connected to the Creator, and that we can be able to transcend difficulties in relationships, difficulties in our own personality is deep, very deep. There's so many layers that we need to see and explore before we're able to heal fully. So that is what has inspired Greg and I, and we're living in community that is dedicated to this 24/7. And we use the teachings of David Hoffmeister and Course in Miracles. He uses Course in Miracles. He transcended the world years ago, many years ago. He's like a light being. He's a very clear teacher, and he's been very helpful in our lives. And we live around him and in community. When we're not traveling, we travel and extend a lot.
To share briefly about this, it's like this book, Course in Miracles even says you only need one book. So just like the Course says, you don't even need that book. But the thing about it is I came to the book, the Course in Miracles, through another book, and many people have. And so we feel that this is a book that can do that, because Course in Miracles is not the parables and the explanation that in terms of our day-to-day language and day-to-day living experience. So David's teachings for 30 years, we put that together and showing like literally step by step how he was a shy kid in high school, and different parables that kind of bring him to higher levels of consciousness, and ultimately just watching dead people rise, and having big gashes of blood coming out of his head from getting pushed on a sign, and just forgiving the whole thing the whole time, and having immaculate healing experiences with the brother who he was with. And so there's some amazing forgiveness parables in here that have been directly related to David's life and our life with our friends. Jenny and I have been married for 4 years now, been together for 7 years almost. And as she said, we live in community to practice A Course in Miracles. We don't have jobs. We just do what's inspiring and truly helpful. And we feel that every day. So that comes through in the book with chapters like collaboration, because we can't collaborate and have ego motives and try to get healing. It's all conflicted and causes disharmony. So we're just delighted to be able to share this with you. I'll give you just a framework of the day. I feel like this will go on for maybe 45 minutes, just a teaching session, some in-depth, which then will carry into a movie experience, because we need more than 2 hours for the movie. So we're looking at 3 o'clock, 3:10. We'll stop for a break and then come back. You can freshen up, just sort of get recharged, and then we'll come in with the energy of the movie and use it for answering questions and more teaching, getting into the practical. That's what's beautiful about movies, is you can sit there and go, they're living out A Course in Miracles, either the ego or the Holy Spirit, and you can literally watch the Spirit work through the movies with our own clean lens, or or a good teacher who's sharing the message, and watch the ego characters and be like, notice where we feel triggered, and where some hang-ups might be in our own belief system. Because unless that movie experience, any movie, is just this panoramic of images, which is a meditation and just a neutral image, which then we're bringing forgiveness to, then there's beliefs in there. We haven't transcended it. So typically on the spiritual path, and I did this too, I just went to spiritual movies, or I turned off TV, which is generally a good idea. But if you're avoiding something because there's scary movies, then it's like it's gonna be there. It's in the dark. What's in your closet. That metaphor will not go away in terms of spiritual practice for forever, because that's what it is. It's like what's hiding behind the closet, what's in the back of our mind, hidden, or dismissed, or put away. So movies are a way to access some of those in the closet beliefs and fears and judgments, and so they can come up and we can journal about them and just explore them with friends and mighty companions, and actually heal things that we see on the movie screen, and not have to act them out. Basically, we don't have to act them out. So how many are brand new to the course? Okay, this is a Course Miracles group then. Beautiful.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I wasn't here last night, and I just have one question. You said,
Yeah.
Something else, some other book brought you to the course, the blue book.
Gary Renard's Disappearance of the
okay.
Universe.
I was wondering, thank you.
Yeah. I actually had the Course Miracles, but
Yeah, we know.
I needed a
classic
context.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which exactly is beautiful. Yeah.
What was the book that brought you?
Gary Renard's Disappearance of the Universe.
Oh, yeah.
This what?
Gary Renard.
If you could speak up a little bit louder, I'm really struggling to hear.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to come closer? Is there a way?
Anything up there? Any closer?
You can bring a chair right up.
And we will try to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I feel there are two arenas where this book is great, and it is for new course students, or even before course students. It's very, very helpful. But I want to say it's actually really, we have seen groups that have been doing the course for a long time and have become a bit stuck. This book has been very helpful for them because it brings in the practical, lots of practical application, and many groups get a bit stagnant because all the people in the groups are so willing, and they study and they study and they study and they read the ideas and talk about the ideas, but the practical application may not have come in so much. So this is like a help to get into practical application around communication and expression and sharing deeper, and so it's I just want to mention that. So okay, you go.
Just a request too. It's really helpful. We can see if this could be a group agreement that this is an active participation. We, once we go through some teachings and things, we want to invite you to share and to ask questions. But it's not about crosstalk. We're here, we're here to share. And if there's hey, I know the answer to that, or if there's sharing that involves teaching or an expression or a sharing based on someone else's sharing, it can get into our minds are very sensitive, so it doesn't feel helpful to us. So you can join with us, share your expression, share what's on your heart, deep, questions that are about something that's real for you, like you want to share, we respond to that. We love that. So if that could be a group agreement, we'd appreciate that.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you. And that includes the movies too, as we go along and watch the movie as well. Yeah. A lot of things come up in the mind, and we want to share it, but that's where the Holy Spirit comes in. It's like, okay, is my heart settled? Am I, okay, is this truly helpful? The old prayer, I'm here to be truly helpful. And we do invite the Holy Spirit to the meeting and to the movie watching experience, so we can feel like this joining in mind, and it's a wonderful experience, and hopefully the movie experience and being together will stay with you, and kind of feed your practice and feed your mind towards the Spirit's presence. We have, so as Jenny was sharing, we kind of introduced some different topics last night: special relationship, perception, and grievances. And these are all things that we work with to remove and offer to the Holy Spirit. The second chapter, it's called perception. And our problem is only perception. We don't have people problems, we don't have animal problems, we don't have house problems, we don't have bill problems, we don't have sickness problems. We have a perceptual problem, and this is the deepest part of the teaching of the Course in Miracles. We can't change the world, including really our body, if that's our motive. So we can change our mind about the world. We can change our perception, and as we go, I know being in community, and it's very dynamic and very active. It's not a sleepy, kind of community, because because we're in for the awakening. So it's very active, and things are, shifting, and the Spirit's got, some energy for us, so that we can use it to heal our mind. And coming to recognizing that, I have a perceptual problem is something that's been helpful for me to have in the back pocket, because it's very easy to get drawn into the world and the things going on in the world, and we have these reactions to the situations or conflicts that show up in our mind. We talked about last night that we actually are mind. We're actually abstract, and we live in the mind of God. We're living in pure being. We're living in harmony. We're living in love, and that sense of absolute peace and stillness. But we perceive ourselves being in a body, and it seems to be very. What did Albert Einstein say about that? You have a delusion of consciousness, and although it's a very persistent one, the delusion that seems to be real, it's a very persistent one, and we don't flash out of it or anything, but our perception softens, and our attachments to the outcome starts to fade away.
Outcome in form.
Yeah, a peaceful outcome is very helpful to have in mind. Yeah, setting the goal.
Nothing is random. Nothing is random. I think that's the Holy Spirit is saying that nothing is random, and that is very, very, very helpful to remember, because the deceived mind, the separated mind, will always wander. It will it will just wander and let circumstances decide all the time what is it up to. But to do the mind training means to invite the experience that you are in charge, you are one with the mind that is in charge. Your presence is it, and there are no accidents, and circumstances never decide who you are or what you do, and nothing is random. You are that mind that is, that just is. That's the message I hear to share. It's very important to, if we want full peace of mind and full happiness, to practice that, to open our mind, to be just willing, even if we don't know how, just to be willing, to be on top of our mind, to be on top of situations with the Holy Spirit with us. Very important.
Yeah, the whole book is inviting us to have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. So everything is directing towards that. And of course, that's very congruent with Course in Miracles. At the end of the Course, he says, this is a beginning. And what are the last 5 lessons? He actually repeats them. Why would he repeat 5 lessons that are exactly the same? Did they run out of, they didn't have enough to fill the year? Then Jesus was like, that's about it, but there's 5 more days. Just repeat the last 5. No. Be you in charge, for I would follow you. The lesson is, hey, handing over our own will, handing over our life, handing over our decisions, and being guided not only through how we feel, but also with each step we make. Oh, should I do this or that? We don't know. Actually, the ego is going to direct us into a loop, which is the history of repeating the same mistake. And the first chapter is actually called Judgment and Knowledge. And there's an exercise in there, and it's pretty cool. It's like, try it out. It's fresh, too, because the exercise invites you to go through your day and see, maybe write it down, see if you have any opinions throughout the day. Just check it out. Do you want to say something in front of somebody or after somebody or in response to that? Is it being said in your own mind? All the interpretations, they happen so quick. The little, wow, that was weird. The mind's just constantly, that's the ego, is always feeding these opinions to our mind so that it can establish an identity for itself. It's not you. It's its identity, which isn't even real. But it's trying to convince you. Yeah. It's the sun not being out is bad, it's making me feel such and such. It's constantly wanting to say the world is the cause and that my state, how I feel, is the result, the effect. And God is turning, the Holy Spirit's turning that around. We're saying, you're the effect of God, so you are the Christ. You are the expression of the Creator. So it's kind of fun, practice this out. The second chapter, as I was saying, is perception. This chapter is where the movie comes in. Actually, we're going to use the movie in the book. So we're going to try it out. We won't go through it word by word. We usually use a lot of spontaneity to it, intuition, just being in a moment with you guys and see, what feels like we want to address, and not, read questions out of a book. But it's really helpful. The movie addresses our perceptions. And every time we walk into a movie, we can address our perceptions too with the Holy Spirit.
Do you have a question?
I just keep thinking about things like this negative medical diagnosis. How do we change our perception about it?
Yeah, well, they come in. I mean, it's helpful to see that they come from, you know, a whole culture, and it's our perception, you know, of it being
Do you
a
have
bad thing.
Do you have your own experience from it? That is, or you have a personal experience?
Grandchildren with
Yeah.
hunters. And it's, sorry.
No,
No, that's great.
Go for it.
It's-
It's fine. I love.
It's progressive.
Yes. Say more.
And they're really bad. How do we change our perception?
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's good.
I think, can I say something?
No.
I just went over some guidelines for the
Okay,
group,
great,
which
okay.
is to,
Yeah.
No crosstalk,
no
that type of
cross-talking.
thing.
It's beautiful. Do you have more to share about it? You know, this is
There's just a new baby on the way, and we didn't know all the complications of the genetics being involved, and there's fear. I feel fearful. I perceive hardship for the baby, and my son, for his wife, I see pain. And I would like to change that perception so that I could be light. I don't know how to change my perception because I'm a nurse and I've seen so many things. It's like fighting this urge that says it's reality. How does perception how to heal so that perception isn't there?
Yeah. Thank you. What is your name?
Mary.
Mary. Thank you, Mary, for sharing that, for bringing it up. So we have learned from the course that projection makes perception. So this is, so how, you know, you may ask, how did I project this stuff, you know? And that may be hard to explain, but one thing you can do here is you have emotions, you have fear coming up. Yeah. And it seems to be because of that situation, the baby and the sickness, the diagnosis. So that's a good thing you're in touch with, your fear and the pain around this and the picture of this situation. And there is one thing that is your function here, and that's to hand over the baby to the Holy Spirit. Like the way we do it in our minds when we have anything painful, anything that is difficult to deal with, we join with Spirit within, with this pain. We don't need to try to fix or change the world, the baby. We can't. We cannot do that. And we don't have to do that. So we know this is our own pain. This is your pain. And it has nothing to do with the baby, believe it or not. It has been triggered by that. But it's your connection with the belief in separation that's coming up. And it's a deep fear and a deep pain. And on some level, we can thank God that you're in touch with it. Because that's very good. So now you have something you work with, and you work with those emotions. And if you are a course student, which you are, you know that, I have a thread, that the world is,
Projection.
yeah, it's not real. I just lost the whole thread that I had about that.
Well, what's so practical is that the perception chapter has a levels of mind diagram, which was given by, Jesus gave it to David. He had an ongoing dialogue with Jesus about his schooling, about his life and this and that. So the picture comes in, and you can trace some of this stuff back right into A Course in Miracles too, as he talks about desire, truth was lost to you by your desire. It can be returned to you through your desire. And go through the emotions, it's an important piece, as Jenny's saying, and going through the thoughts. Like, this is a relationship with the Holy Spirit as we learn to heal. And in prayer, joining, knowing that the Holy Spirit's with us, we offer our emotions, we offer our thoughts, we offer our beliefs, because you're a nurse. So you got wound in.
Yeah.
You got wound in, you bought into it, made a career out of it, so there's some roots in there. So that, it could be loosened very easily, but for most people it's probably not. And underneath that belief of the nursing and the education, there's a desire, there's a split desire that splits. And you can work with this. We have tools, I can share with you actually an app that we have. There's one on Facebook and for iPhones that you can go through this process, and every time that comes up you can wash away these beliefs that are in there, and you can just then you come with a desire that's pure, that you love, that you love and you love this baby and you love your family, and that's where you are the light. But some washing will happen first as you hand over these things to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and the depth of this is too that the truth is beyond appearances. The truth is beyond appearances, behind appearances. And appearances, they can be however they are. It can seem to be sickness, it can seem to be drama, it can be difficult. Babies are born, babies may sometimes die, old people die, maybe some young people get sick and die sometimes. That's appearances. And truth is always beyond appearances. And we have many opinions in our mind. It's good to be a healthy body. It's bad to be a sick body. It's worse to be a dead body. And it's even worse to have a dead baby body, And we have all those beliefs. But if we withdraw all judgment and everything we put on that and be observing, we don't know what is good and bad. We don't know what, this baby seems to be here to teach something, It's bringing up a lot of pain. And even that, we don't need to conclude anything at all. Your only function is to work with your process and your forgiveness. And to thank, for this situation that has shown you something about, it has brought up a fear.
Maybe stop resisting it.
Yes.
Because I keep thinking, I don't want to go through this. Then
Yes.
just make him whole.
Right.
So I feel a lot of resistance. I just realized that. That my perception is that we need to be able to escape this experience.
No, we can't. We can't.
Yeah.
We need to go through it, and then we see it was nothing. Once you've gone, but you have to go through it and let the baby come right into your mind and show you what it is showing you. It's very good. It's safe.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Very, very, this is good. This is a good example. This is the process we need to do. We need to allow things and to come into awareness and the Course in Miracles is so radical. It says there is no life in the body. There's no life in this world. Only in mind is there life, true life. And so knowing that, what can be fearful? And what is fearful, we need to face and go through. And the movie we're going to show you is also a very, very, very good movie to see what's going on in the mind regarding projection, denial, projection, and self-hatred, like the deep dissociation that we do when we have a personality. We think we're bad, and we show up with a good surface, with a good face, an innocent face, because we think there's something dark underneath. And he certainly, in the movie, we're going to see that acted out. And we're going to go through a healing process with the guy. And the movie is not about entertaining our mind and watching something on the screen. It's about taking it in and see where we all have done that, and just really use it. It's like a deep process that we want to invite you in with us into. Yeah.
Over the years of watching movies with the community, I've had some interesting perceptions of things, and how generally, even there's a conditioning that happens, whether we see our family or watch a movie, or do other things, but we actually believe that, the movie is outside of us, right? I mean, you're going to see a movie, it's someone else's life. There's no difference between the inner and the outer. Why? Because we're mind. We'll never be able to escape that. We only think we're bodies. It's just remember, that's the illusion. That's the delusion. It's a hallucination. We're all just seem to be in this complex arrangement of forms. But what's beautiful about it is a mirror. It's a mirror to our mind. So that, when things come up, and this is it. This is what the practice is to just allow those to come into our awareness without shutting them away or pushing them out of the way, avoiding things we don't want to do, and actually looking at them and facing that discomfort. Course in Miracles talks about the ring of fear, which is why Jesus gave David the rings. Because the perception, these concentric circles, the outer ring is perception. And if you get into the ring, you start entering the ring of fear. And different levels, you could say. And at one point, you may realize, and David spoke about this one time, he said that, he was looking at fears, and he ended up not having any fears anymore. He didn't fear anything specific, not people, not places, not things. But then he had all this fear come up, all this fear. And he was just like, well, what's going on here? So he went through and just faced all of that and realized that was the fear that's rooted right into the ego's belief system. Ego cannot live without fear, and so that ring of fear is the cover, is basically the world is on top of this cover of fear. And so we're perceiving, as Jesus says in the Course, pretty strong, that the world is an attack on God. It's like using some very different strong language around what the world is, as it's a projection that's rooted in that fear and hate. So it's the book is describing the different levels, and you can kind of see very clearly, where in the mind, our beliefs and our thoughts are, and see what it relates to in very simple language. And it's a guide too, to sort of go through different experiences that we seem to have in the world. Yeah, Judy.
When I'm in my ego, it's tremendous fear and terror. And I can see that I blame God for everything. And I curse him and I hate him when I'm in my ego, in my fear, because everything that I see from the ego point of view is nightmare, is pain, is horror. So I can see what you're saying there, that that is the separation. I consider myself and the ego completely separate. And that this consciousness must be malevolent, because this is the world I see. It's so horrendous. How can anything create that unless it is absolute darkness and even demonic? So,
Yeah, describe the ego.
right, right, that's completely the ego. And then when I'm not in my ego and I'm in that space, all of that goes away and disappears.
Exactly.
So, and then I wanted to say that as far as babies go, I have a 32-year-old baby, and my 32-year-old baby is in jail right now since January. And then when I'm in my ego, I feel this pain that is so excruciating that I cannot be there with my baby to help him and to somehow protect him, because that's my goal. That's my image of myself as a mother, to protect my child, to protect my babies, and to keep them from harm. So I find it interesting now he's in this space, and I can speak to him. He calls once a day, but I can't go in there and stop what he is afraid of, or his fear of being attacked or hurt, and I can't stop it. It brings up this tremendous pain and panic, like. And I know that's my ego, because it's all fear. So it's triggering that. It's triggering my deepest ego. And when I hear Mary's story, it makes me think of, all our children, our babies, and, whether they have a genetic thing or they're now in danger because of my image. My image as a mother. My image of a mother is to protect and to give the best to these children.
I celebrate that you see that it is your image as a mother. It's the role.
It's the role, right.
We play and act in so many roles
Right, and
here in the
it's
world.
right.
And whether we have a 32-year-old or a newborn baby, if we have a role, it's the same problem.
Same thing,
I have a 23-year-old. There once was a 10-year-old. He was 10. And I received this calling to go for my spiritual awakening path. So strong. It was so strong, and I couldn't resist it. And there was a part of me that knew that this mother role, I have to transcend. And I have to transcend it sometime. And when I received this strong call to go to America and follow my spiritual path, I thought, why not now? I feel ready. And I do trust the Course in Miracles teachings that there is nothing apart from my mind. I don't feel it experientially, because I still felt like I was a mother. Experientially, I had fear and anxiety, responsibility, big one. Responsibility is a big one in our awareness. So I had to hand over responsibility, guilt, anxiety, mother role, and the image of my son. who was anxious. He was throwing up on the school bus. He had his problems. I loved him more than anyone. I was the best one to take care of him. That was in my belief. So this was tricky for me. So, but I did it. And what happened was, in my mind, I handed him over to the Holy Spirit completely. And I said, I'm going to follow guidance, and I'm going to trust that, that he is going to get the best for him. He is on his path. I am not God. I am not the one to say that I'm the best to take care of him. I don't know what his path looks like. In form, it looked great, actually. He was taken care of by his dad. He moved there. His dad remarried many years before this, and they had other babies, so he got a whole family happening. And he grew up, and he's 23 now. He's a young man, is very loving, bright, confident. Everybody loves him. That's what I see anyway. We have some contact. So yeah, so I'm just all for it when it comes to transcending roles, any role, mother, daughter, husband, wife, brother, sister, child, all of the roles. The more we can do that, the more free we are, and then we can be guided in how to communicate with who, when, instead of from the ego's premises. The ego would say you communicate when you're worried about somebody, you're anxious, and instead of looking at your anxiety and your guilt and fear, you call your son or your mother or father and have some kind of, not a real communication, because there is fear and anxiety underneath. Jesus says, no, I invite you to look here at your stuff. Take some time with me, and we'll work through this, and then you may have some nice communications coming in, and some loving, but it's first and foremost to look at our minds, which is so cool, and it works. It works when we take that path. So I always want to encourage everybody and invite everybody to try it out. Try it out in your own lives and relationships, to not compromise in those areas. It's really cool.
So are you saying to relinquish everything to the Holy Spirit? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't have any control over that scenario, and you didn't. So when you get the ego out of the way, you don't feel the sadness in the same way. Is that correct? Or you don't feel the?
Yeah, you don't feel those emotions anymore.
Yeah.
Because the fear is about separation from God, and so that's what you're facing. It can look like it's relationships on the surface, but yeah.
How do you identify that it's the ego going on?
There
And
is-
then once you identify, how do you get rid of it?
So there is always discomfort when the ego is involved, or control,
Control or discomfort
yeah, or anxiety or fear,
or anxiety?
yeah. So,
Okay.
so you recognize that, and your job is just to be willing. You sit down and you're willing, and you open your mind to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the healer that will come in and join with your mind when you do that. The fear will have you run and do stuff and distract. But when you take a moment, the more moments you're willing to take, the more you're willing to take a moment is you give yourself a gift. And the human being wants to be in charge, in control all the time. But when we surrender and just open up the mind a bit to Spirit, it's gonna. That's why it's a course in miracles. Miracles is not just some kind of strange idea that happened to others or rare cases. No, it's something that is available to live from when we do this in our practice. And we don't have to think about the timeline we're going to do it, and it's a lot to do or anything. Just stay with the moment and practice with the very present moment and what's there in our perception in the moment. So, or what is pressing in our, in the picture of our life, and just stay with that.
So it's as simple as just asking the Holy Spirit to come in? I mean, do you feel that simplicity, that's exactly what works?
Yes.
And then you see results eventually if you're just being still and just...
Yeah. And you don't even need to, it's helpful to find a quiet place. So you do that when you can, but if you're out and about in your work or whatever, you can still take a moment in your mind. That's the inner work. Be willing to do it. Yeah. Offer the little willingness.
It does get simpler and simpler over time, and we have this levels of mind or the Spirit app where you can look at the mind basically, which is the feelings and then the thoughts and the beliefs and then that desire, and you can actually see that sometimes, well, always actually, in truth, there's a desire that's split, that there's something else, like a form outcome. I'd rather, I mean, the weather example is very easy. I'd rather the sun be out than be happy.
Right.
That's the desire that's split. It's like, there's a demand on the world. There's a demand. There's a, it's like a little temper tantrum kind of thing that happens very deep inside. That's where that split is. So when we come back to that original split, the faster we do that, then it's easier to shift the mind and get into a miracle. But I mean, it's much quicker for me now than it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where the change of mind can be just like, I just don't want to hold on to that, and it just would just fade out.
I mean, it's a practice. You're practicing it daily.
Yeah.
There was this other line that came to my mind today. It's, you're worthy of constant effort. You're worthy of constant effort, which sounds weird. Effort is not something we like.
Right.
But effort, it takes effort to the deceived mind to do the mind training. So to realize you're worthy to do this little bit of, it's like a little tweak in the mind, just a little willingness to be open to do this. That's all it takes, and to remember that you're worthy of the constant effort. And I like to remember that, because it talks about the littleness, and the little cannot do this mind training, but you're not little, because you have the Holy Spirit's power is with you. So actually came to mind the self-concept versus self to set up the movie,
Yeah, because it's almost 10 after 3
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, we can move into the movie. And have you read the self-concept versus self in the course? How many of you know about that chapter?
Sounds
Self-concept
familiar.
versus self. It's a very good one.
What chapter is it?
It's chapter 31, section 5. And for this movie, you're going to see this. So let's just read a little bit. The learning of the world is built upon a concept of the self adjusted to the world's reality. It fits it well, for this an image is that suits a world of shadows and illusions. So the image of the self suits a world of shadows and illusions. Is that what we want to identify with? Oh my God, no. That sounds not, and in us there is a strong feeling we are worthy of so much more than that. So here, this self-concept, this self walks at home, where what it sees is one with it. The building of the concept of the self is what the learning of the world is for. This is its purpose, that you come without a self and make one. as you go along. And by the time you reach maturity, you have perfected it to meet the world on equal terms, at one with its demands. Wow. This is why we need a teacher, beyond our own self, because otherwise we're going to go in this pattern of trying to perfect this little self-concept. It's like an urge inside. I'm going to perfect this little self until I have, until it can be in glory. But that's like a fake goal. We're never going to get satisfied with that. It's like the movie The Island. It's a very metaphysical movie about you can win this prize of going to the island. The little human beings are like, they're just hoping to win this prize. And that's exactly this. Like this urge to try to become this perfect little self. A concept of the self is made by you. It bears no likeness to yourself at all. It is an idol made to take the place of your reality as Son of God. The concept of the self the world would teach is not the thing that it appears to be, for it's made to serve two purposes, but one of which the mind can recognize. So we don't have to read all of this, but first it presents a face of innocence, searches for companions, looks with pity on the suffering. And this aspect can grow angry because the world is wicked and unable to provide the love and shelter that innocence deserves. So this face is often wet with tears. And this face of innocence is just a surface that is covering over a deeper self. Beneath the face of innocence, there is a lesson that the concept of the self was made to teach. It's a lesson in a terrible displacement and a fear so devastating that the face that smiles above it must forever look away, lest it perceives the treasure it hides. The lesson teaches this: I am the thing you made of me, and as you look on me, use this conception of the self, the world smiles with approval, which guarantees that the pathways of the world are safely kept, and those who walk on them will not escape. Okay, this is just really pointing it out. You know how many times you felt unfairly treated, and they did that to me, and you may come together with your friends and discuss how certain people did certain things, and that's what he's talking about here. And it's approved. You will gather the witnesses that join with you. Yeah, it was bad. They did. It was very bad. And that's the ego. It wants to keep the world it made, And that's exactly what he says here. So there is this, we don't have to go deeper into this section. I think we're going to move into the movie. But there is certainly a face in the movie.
I have to tell you, is this movie an older movie at Disney?
Yeah.
It's quite old. Well,
2000.
I was just, how is
2000.
Yeah, well, what's so interesting, and I was reading a book yesterday, and it said in the book you need to see the movie The Kid, Disney. And then when you guys said you were doing it, I thought, how bizarre. So, and the book said you need to, and it was something that highlighted in my brain. And then you're playing it today, and I'm thinking there must be something that I need to see in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
But usually the Spirit gives me at least a couple of signs, in direction, and you hear it again, you're like, what was that? Yeah, and
He did
it's
it,
very
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as dark as that sounds like with A Course in Miracles and the languaging, this is a very light movie, very very playful, very very humorous. But he does go through his turmoil, you could say, and it's easy to laugh when it's happening, seemingly outside of our own mind. So.
And it's called what?
The Kid. It's
The Kid.
2000, year
The
2000, Disney made it with Bruce Willis, which is pretty rare for him not to be in an action
Love
movie.
that movie.
It's actually a relationship movie. It's a relationship movie. So it's beautiful.
We know it's the Holy Spirit's guidance when it's something soft like that. A movie that can speak to us in such a deep level with the same stuff that I just read. We're going to watch it and we can open up and take it in and we can have a discussion afterwards. And so it's going to be really good. So we